Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have liftoff.
This week we're bringing you something new that we're calling Lift Off With. Now, in honour of National Small Business Week, I'm bringing you some of the best kept secrets who are perhaps earlier on in their journeys or really on their way to lift off. We're bringing you a new episode every single day to shine a spotlight on these incredible women that you might not have yet heard of. Right, so let's lift off with. Today we're joined by my gorgeous friend Sally, the most incredible interior designer, but also the founder of Hesellic Design. Sally set out to create something so special, and honestly it is so inspiring to witness. Through Hesellic Design, she is redefining what it means to own your story and your personal brand. So let's find out why she's a lady who launched. Right, before we get into it, if you like this episode, which I know you're going to, please don't forget to like and subscribe and to share it to your group chat. I love that we're doing this because we've known each other for a very long time and we've worked with each other lots and we are friends. But I feel like obviously I know so much about you, Sally, and I know so much about what you do, but there'll be also so much that I don't know, which is so interesting. So I'm so pleased that you're here.
Thank you for having me, Gil.
Always. For those that don't know, let's kind of set the scene. Tell us who Sally is and tell us about Hesellic Design.
So I am Sal, the founder and creative director of Hesellic Design, which is a multifaceted interior design studio which comprises of interior designers, interior architects and architectural technicians, providing what I like to think as really truly bespoke designs for people wishing to build or renovate family homes.
And it's what I just find, basically before you, I didn't even know that you could have an interior designer. Like when you're from a working class background, you don't even know something like that existed.
Same, by the way.
I really?
Yeah.
I grew up just thinking like my mum decided, the hallway needs something, so I'm going to go to home base and I'm going to do it. And everyone was all hands on deck. I didn't know that it was such an art form. And it wasn't until I got a lot older and I suppose, a bit more financial freedom that I was like, well, you can really make your home a beautiful place to be, and even now I suppose we see like content creators, if you've not got the finances to have someone advise you, you can just draw so much inspiration everywhere.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about our business and what I love about social media. So even though we work very, very, very closely with our clients, investor clients, private clients, we share our work online. And it's so nice when people tap into us and say, I got this idea from your Instagram. What do you think? And I get such a massive buzz off that because, growing up, my mum used to take me to the rag market on a Saturday afternoon. We'd go pick the new fabric for the net curtains. Or, I was 7 and I had swags and tails in my bedroom. So it's like they were blue and yellow. So I didn't really understand what interior design was, but I think it's already that creative spark was, I guess, part of me and my being from kind of a really young age, but not in the capacity as I know it, what I know design to be now.
When did you realise, because like you said, with these things, there's always like a natural instinct, isn't there? A natural eye or that natural flair that you're either sort of blessed with or you're not. It's kind of a hard thing to teach style, isn't it? It's so kind of subjective. When did you first realise that this was more than kind of a love for shopping and making your own fabulous? When did you realise that you wanted to have your own interior design studio?
So I came to the industry, I guess, a little bit later than most, or like a lot of my team came straight to the studio from university, having done an interior architectural degree. I actually started my career. So I always wanted to put pictures together. I actually wanted to work in television, either producing or art directing. And so that's where I actually started my career. But because of the kind of person I am, I like to see everyone okay, make sure everything's organised. You know, I love good feeling. I almost got moved into kind of, I guess, more of a managerial organisation role within TV. And whilst that was great, the money was great, I climbed the ladder quite quickly. There was just something about that creative spark in me that I desperately missed. And I remember calling my mum and dad. I was like, I think I'm going to move to London and I'm going to quit telly. You know, I'd sent 200 letters out as part of, to try and get a job straight after uni. And I'd got this great job. I'd moved up quite quickly. And then I was like, yeah, I'm quitting and I'm kind of starting my career again.
It wasn't like sort of setting you alight.
It just wasn't. And I was like, and then so I was doing I was doing some prop buying, a little bit of set design for some of the shows I was working on. And that was truly, I guess, when I realised, okay, this is my path. So I packed a bag, went to London, and I started working with an incredible decorative finisher. She was working for some incredibly top-end interior designers, doing things like bronze leafing, gold leafing, French polishing.
Yeah.
So, and I was just there with a backpack. My friend used to call me Dora the Explorer. And I was there, assisting her. I was getting down on hands and knees, polishing floors. And really just, when the lead designers would come to site, and I was just listening and learning. And then we were working on a gallery in London, and the opening date was looming, and the interior designer who was working on the project, I could see everything was very stressful, really panicking about certain things. So Teresa, the incredible lady that I was working with, kind of pushed me forward and was like, oh, Sal's an interior designer. And I was like,
oh my gosh, that moment.
And I kind of just went with it. I was like, okay, so we're definitely faking it till we make it here then. And she was kind of very much like, oh, I am the interior designer on the project, don't need another one. So I was just like, no worries, I'm here if you need anything. Gets the call a few days later, Sally, could you just pop to Chelsea Harbour for me, pick me up there? Are you free, are you available? I was like,
I'm making myself free and available.
So I was doing a job in the morning. I was like, I'll be there in the afternoon. And she set me this task of, finding 3 samples. I came back with 20. And she was like, okay, we've smashed this.
By the way, nothing else has changed. Now when I'll say, Sally, what do you think about fabrics for this? She'll be like, here are 55 to choose from.
And then she said, well, what about, how do you fancy designing some leather doors? It was for historic building. And I said, yeah, we could really work with brass. And because of the experience I'd had working with Teresa, it really just set me in good stead to be able to say, oh, we could do this. And I think the designer at the time just saw something in me, and she was like, how do you fancy taking this on as a bit of a contract? So taking the entire stress away from me and actually running with it yourself. So I called my dad and I was like, Dad, because my dad's had a small electrical firm for as long as I can remember, his entire life. I was like, could I speak to your accountant and could I set up a business? And because of the value of the order, I need to be VAT registered within 24 hours.
Oh my gosh, this is so brilliant.
So he was like, yes, darling, no problem. We'll work it out. Let's sort it out. So literally registered overnight. I was under a lot of pressure to choose a business name, set it up, and then genuinely, the rest is history. And I know that's kind of a bit of a cliche.
No, it's not.
But it just then snowballed from there.
So tell me about the name. Because whenever I say, but you need to, you know me, I'm always like, you have to use Sally. If you're going to do this, you have to use Sally. Where did the name Hesellic, where did that come from?
It's the phonetic pronunciation of a word that if you looked at it, it looks like Gezellig. But it's a Dutch word, so you pronounce it, and I've actually got a little tattoo of it here, it's pronounced Hesellic.
Right.
So I almost did a play on that word. And the reason I still do love the word, is because it's virtually untranslatable in the Dutch culture. And it means something that's just so nice, a cosy atmosphere, a homely environment, and just to feel really loved in a space.
I mean, well, then it couldn't kind of embody what you do better. Right.
Of course. And do you know what? The advice because our industry, you may or may not know this, but lots of design studios, particularly well-established design studios, they tend to be named after the principal designer.
Yes.
But in the early days, my name had no legitimacy whatsoever.
Right.
So I had to almost have a brand name. And okay, the tables.
What you mean? Because at the time you wasn't known as a designer.
I wasn't. No one knew me. I was this like gal from, even though I was working in London, I was young. I was a
Yeah.
brummie, and I was a female.
So you sort of get. So I suppose you're giving yourself like an alias sort of thing.
Absolutely. It was just that legitimacy that I think when you're starting, because from day one, I mean, this was a gallery on Bond Street in London. I wasn't starting painting my grandma's flat.
No.
It was almost like
You'd been given this opportunity and you kind of had to build a brand to reflect the kind of business that you were doing from the jump.
Absolutely. And I mean, I look at my branding back then and it's horrendous, but I just had to get started.
Yeah.
That idea, like, it was just like, it's now or never. It was an opportunity that I was just like, it was almost like a pinch me thing where it's like almost like why me type thing.
Yeah.
I had no formal training as such. It was just almost like blood, sweat and tears, really.
And almost just making, and we see this a lot, it's making the most of being in that right place at the right time. Had you not have been pushed in front and you said, oh, she's an interior designer, and you said, oh, no, that's not for me, because you might have felt that you weren't ready yet. But whether you kind of felt it or not, just making sure that you pushed yourself to take the opportunity with both hands.
Absolutely. And whilst like Hesellic, the name, and like I say, other interior design studios, they're named after the principal. And we've also toyed with the idea as a studio, particularly as we move into new territories and when we move to more global projects. But then the word more so than ever just means so much to me.
Yeah.
It means so much to the team, the brand. It's just the very essence of who we are.
And it's the root of what you do. So I suppose that's what you do so well, is create that cosy, gorgeous environment. I suppose that's what you want the team to always remember.
Of course. And Roshi, it's not like, it's difficult to say, but it's also difficult to explain what it is because it's not tangible.
Yes.
It's a feeling. And you and I often talk about magic. Mm-hmm. And I think, when you're a service-based business, and I guess that's the difference, we're service-based, right?
Yeah.
So it's about feeling. And I think people know whether it's in your soul and whether it means more to you than anything.
Yeah.
And as a studio, to us, it does. Our work is everything, and the brand is everything.
When we talk about you and the feeling and your brand, to me, you have such a distinctive brand. So I could see something on Pinterest, which I am often, me, I love a little Pinterest board, and I see your projects come up.
Of course, you love Pinterest. We're like 3 a.m. sharing pictures.
I know, it's really bad. We're on like these joint boards and it's a whole thing, keeps us up all night. But your homes are so, I could spot one of your homes a mile off. And you have such a kind of distinctive style and taste, which is what you said. It's cozy. It's not over fussy. It's just like complete but pulled together. It's exactly what is on my mood board, as you know. Mm-hmm. Is it hard? I often wonder this when being an interior designer and you're helping somebody achieve their dream home, which is, I suppose, why they onboard you, because they love you, they love what you do, but they love that feeling. Mm-hmm. If they're sort of leaning towards an idea that you are like, this is absolutely horrendous, but they're a paying customer, this is what's going to make them happy, but how do I put my spin on this, kind of respect what they want, but also not let it affect my style? I always wonder that, like, if someone is like, I want this kind of ghastly bedroom and that's what's going to make them happy, how do you go about that?
I mean, it's definitely a balancing act. I guess we're so lucky because we've been in business for such a long time now that our clients come to us for our signature style.
Yes.
And like I say, it's very difficult to actually describe what that is for some people, but it's that layered, cosy environment that's very curated, but it's so livable.
Yes.
Like we everything needs to be livable. And I think because our brand and the essence of our brand is so strong within the team as well, it's very easy to take an idea that a client has and bring them around to our way of thinking without changing their philosophy and what they believe they want their home to be. And what that is, which I actually think is a skill, and I always say to my team, for my poor organisation, for my timekeeping, for all of the stuff that I'm not great at, I'm like, please always trust me that I will always get into the client's mind and I'll always get on their wavelength of thinking.
Yes.
And that's And I actually think that's made the studio what it is today. I love it when a client says, "Oh my God, that's exactly what I was thinking." Or we're going to choose a marble slab with a client and I'm thinking something in my mind and the client says something and I'm like, yeah.
Because it's so hard to articulate that feeling, like being on the other end and being a client. I'm like, I've seen this, I love this, this is my vibe. But you always find a way of, like this studio, for example, we designed this together, and then today you came and you sprinkled your magic touch everywhere because there was just a table and there wasn't anything here, and I was on FaceTime to you going, I think this is right, but we're going to record a couple of episodes in it before you get here. And instantly you came in today, realigned everyone's shots, the close-ups, the wide shots, everything's different now. You've added some accessories, but this is exactly what I meant it to look like, but it didn't, 12 hours ago.
Because you know what it is? Like, it's difficult for a client sometimes, exactly like you. It's not your industry. You're not expected to be able to articulate what you want.
Yes.
It's our job, and I always say this to my team. We've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and we must use them in proportion. When we meet a client for the first time, all we need to do is listen, really try and understand. I've had clients say to me, "Oh, I like shabby chic," and then you show them shabby chic images and they're like, "Oh no, that's not what I like." And it's encouraging them to be really open. And I always say, no one sounds silly. No one's asking silly questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. So if you're unsure about your style or what you like, let's just spend lots of time doing discovery. And discovery's become a really important part of our brand because that's how we get to know the client and genuinely find out what they genuinely like and love, not just what they think they like.
Yes. And also I think as a client, what you say with your mouth and then visually what I send you as a picture can actually be conflicting.
Absolutely. And that's even a challenge for us in the studio, but we work really hard with that. And so we conceptualise all of our projects before we start them.
And I want to talk to you about your studio and about your team, because when, at the beginning, I know how small your team was. I know that your team is still a small team, but a team that's grown. So how many
So there's 7 of us now all
7 of you
together,
now.
including our little, we have someone that takes care of all our account, that does accounting. So yeah, we're a very, very small team. And for what we do.
Yeah, of course, but exactly that. You execute these big projects, but I'm always, people think that I have a team of, hundreds because we're sat on Boots High Street, but my team is very small, and we're now scaling and building that team, but I've kept it small on purpose because I kind of like that intimate approach. And I think that's what I always want the brand to feel, intimate. However, as things get a little bit bigger, you realise that the workload is too much for a tiny, tiny team, and it does need to grow.
And you have to scale up. I mean, I went without a member of staff for a number of years. And then my first team member came on board and she's still with me now. And, building a team is truly one of the most difficult and challenging things about a business. Everybody knows it. But one of the things that I'm most proud of is that I've worked really hard on, understanding what I need as a creative lead, as well as what my team need, and also what the clients need.
I think that's what I wonder with it's when you have a service-based business and you've got all of this opportunity that you want to take with 2 hands and lots of incredible projects that you are able to work on. When somebody, I suppose, as that starts, when somebody wants to work with Hesellic, they want to work with Sally. And I think as more opportunities come, is that a hard thing to manage with clients where there's only one of you, and of course your team are, and I know this about you, your team are so reflective of you because you've done such a good job at nurturing them. Is it quite a hard thing? Can that be a challenge when somebody's like, "So I need to talk to you, but you need to talk to everybody that day"? And where it's service-based, people book you and want you.
Of course. And that's where it's an education for the client during the onboarding phase. And something that, I took too long to get right.
Okay.
Because I was micromanaging everything.
But is it, and I can relate to here, it's a hard thing. Nobody wants to be a micromanager because we know that it must be really hard to work under somebody that micromanages. But when something is your baby,
Absolutely.
and your business is about being very personable, it's quite hard not to handhold a bit.
Absolutely. But girl, when we've done it, and when I did do it, it was such a liberating thing, because it really is, as a service-based business, it's the only way that you can expand.
Yes.
Is working out who your people are. Like my team are my people, they're my family. You know, as far as I'm concerned, and watching them grow and develop. You know, one day I'm not going to be around to run the business, because I might be like, I am going to take a back seat. And, you know, the girls know that when the time comes, or, you know, it's theirs. And that is the way to do it. But it's educating the client from day one. And so clients that have known me for a number of years, they know they've got my number, because we become like friends. You know, I become an auntie to the kids. I become a married, you know, confident. There's a real genuine love and respect for our clients. But new clients coming on board, and this is something that it was an internal battle for a long time, having the courage to say, welcome to Hesellic. Whilst I will always lead this team, my eye will be across absolutely everything. Look at these incredible humans that I've got working for me, and look how talented they are.
And also for yourself to not be so accessible. I think that's something that I think I would struggle with, is that when you're service-based, it's like, when do you then switch off? Because say, for example, I finished my job and I'm like, do you know what I need to do tonight? I need to ask Sally about X, Y, and Z. Because I've finished work, and then I've messaged you. But then, so, you know, and there has to be a point where you do actually switch off to not be always available.
Of course.
To live your own life.
Of course. And that's something I do. I mean, still now I struggle with.
I've noticed you've got better at it, though.
I'm getting
I'm
much
pleased.
better.
I'm pleased.
Thank you, girl.
Give
And
yourself a life too, my girl.
I am working on it for sure. It's a real challenge, because it is your baby. It's like someone giving the baby and saying, oh, well, you can nurse my child for the next 12 months and I'm just going to bob in and out. Like my work is literally my life. It's my obsession. I'm very lucky to do something I love. But I also realise, particularly as I'm getting that little bit older, that there definitely has to be that work-life balance, and giving that control to my team and that sense of ownership has been one of the most liberating things that I've ever done. And so, you know, for other people in business, I would definitely service-based, educate your client, and then have the confidence to pass it over to your team.
Yeah. And you're proud of that team you've built. You know how
I'm so
well
proud.
They can, you know, they reflect you, and you are one, like we say, the team is everything.
100%. And one of my proudest moments actually in business was when we finished a project and 2 cards came in the post, and there was one for me and there was one for KK from my team.
Yes.
And it was a handwritten note from the client. And to some people it's a card. To me, that was everything.
Yeah.
Like, this girl with me has worked on your project. She's lived and breathed it in the way that I have, and we would. And now that kind of commitment and dedication to Hesellic has like filtered down to the team that I've got now.
It's just so incredible. But that's all come from, and I've watched it, it's come from you and the time and the way that you spend nurturing that team. You can tell how much they want to show up for you, which is the best kind of, compliment you can ever get, right? Like, they want to do you proud, and they do, and you can see that. I want to talk about like challenges too, because I think, you know, I've seen your growth, and I've seen that, even like on social, and I know that you're pushing yourself to do more on social now, because it's not something that you know that is another job in itself, isn't it? Trying to run that,
because that's actually a big thing, Rosh. Like, for years, no one ever saw my face.
Yes, ever.
Only my clients, and that was never intentional. But I am that girl that's up at 6 a.m. I'm going to bed. I'm still in the office at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, lock me in, girls. Like, I'm here for the night. Like, you know, it's quite a fun, like, there is an element of
also,
vulnerability.
it's the time, because, you know, there's a reason being an influencer is a job. People don't give social media enough credit for how long that takes. And it's not just like film a bit whilst you're dressing this side cabinet. Like, it's a job to get that right too. And you're a lady of aesthetic, and you're going to like it to look a certain way. Sometimes you sort of don't put yourself in the front and centre, not because that you don't want to necessarily, but because you actually haven't got the time when you're doing everything else. Has there been like a challenge as a business that you've had to overcome?
I mean, I have challenges every day. I always say to my team, and actually a really special client of mine who is also an entrepreneur told me this. She said, Sally, not every day can be a wedding day. Some days have to be wash days. And it's something that I take through with me, you know. And my difficulties when I started the business, like running a business is difficult.
In itself.
Right. But my difficulties back then are different to my difficulties now.
Right.
It's a different difficulty, but it's a beautiful difficulty. And so in the early days, now I do have that credibility within the industry, and people, you know, it's very easy to research someone before you start working with them. So contractors do give us a lot of respect before we've even kind of put pen to paper, which is great. But historically, you know, when I was first working in London as an interior designer, working in a very male-dominated environment, very masculine energy, there were so many challenges that I had to overcome. And part of like mothering my team is like, learn from me, listen to what I'm saying, like always stay true to who you are. Because it's little things like, you know, an architect would go onto site or a male designer would go onto site. And if they're very confident about the way they present, it's like, he's very assertive. If it's a woman, she's condescending. If a female questions the status quo on site, like, oh, I'm not sure if that's quite right. Should we do it that way? Fine for a guy to do that. But for a woman, it's like, oh, passive aggressive, not going to do it. Almost like, no, I'm not saying we're not going to do it that way. I'm just questioning. It's very bizarre that disparity.
And do you know what? I actually remember we've done lots together, but the house that we renovated, the one that was in Epping years ago, we renovated this lovely house, and Sally was like hands-on. And I remember one of the contractors at the time, there was definitely a level of male and female respect, and I never forget that. I think Marvin overheard it. I never forget him saying, that's it, we're never using him again. And we never did, because it was just, it's so kind of archaic, but you really, and it was interesting for actually another man to see it and, you know, hear the way he would talk to certain people, but then you would come into the picture and the whole demeanor changed. But I do think it's kind of like, it's archaic, but it's breaking that. When you think of contractors, you just do think of male contractors. You think of like, you know, they've been in that trade for however many years. And I suppose there's a little bit of kind of like bias there that's kind of hard to shake.
Absolutely. And because those sites, there's a lot of masculine energy, which, by the way, I'm here for it. Like, I'm not there walking around with my incense stick, but I definitely bring an empathy to sites.
Yes.
You know, and the male energy would say, oh, too sensitive. Well, no, that's empathetic.
Yes, and actually,
you know?
The interesting thing is I've literally encountered it where I've seen everybody sort of heads together, scratching their head, thinking how they're going to do something, and then Sally will walk in and be like, "Okay, guys, well, that's not the energy. We're going to make this happen. So let's figure out how we're going to do it." And everyone sort of looks up and is like, "Oh, okay, fine," and bet your bottom dollar it gets done. Which is so interesting. And what I love about you and working with you is actually that there is always that energy thing, and I think it's so important when you're in someone's space, whether that's, you know, at work and you helping us with this beautiful office, or in somebody's home, that actually we're big on energy anyway, but energy is everything. And when you're in somebody's kind of safe space, it's important that there doesn't ever feel that kind of, you know, that, I suppose, just ultimately bad energy. Like it's so important.
100%. The only thing that we want bringing to a project is a beautiful, sincere, honest energy that's filled with integrity. Because, you know, ultimately, Rosh, have worked with you for many years, and we're beautiful friends, but ultimately there's a respect level there.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, you task me with a job, I'll go away.
I do task her as well, by the way. I do.
But my job and my responsibility and commitment to you is that we will go away and by hook or by crook, we will make it happen. Yeah. And you know what? In our industry, not everything can go incredibly smoothly. We get shipping delays, particularly post-COVID. We're waiting for deliveries of things, you know. But it's about that mutual respect and understanding. And if your clients, whether they've been friends for years or they're now working with you, there's something that I absolutely love when people say, that gal grafts. And I don't mind. I'm happy to grow. Yeah, you know, there are some creative directors that don't really leave their studio, that don't really liaise with their teams. Like, I want to roll my sleeves up.
Oh, you are there, hands on deck. And I think, but that's what to me really does set you apart. Like your work ethic is second to none, but you're kind of you kind of extend the way that you treat your team to everybody, even like to my team. Like, we're all hands on deck. You're doing camera shots. You know, your job isn't that today. You're actually here just to be a guest. But it's kind of that energy. And I think that is, when I think of you, that's exactly what I think of, is good energy.
Thank you.
We speak about designing our future self. So this is something that we call set the table. And it's essentially thinking, if we could sit down in a year's time, what you would like to see for the future you and for the future of Hesellic. If somebody's just listening or watching this now and this is the first time they've heard of you, and they're going to now check out you on social and, you know, really see about your business, what would you like the difference to be between right now and next year?
Oh, that's a really good question. And it's actually something we talk about a lot in-house. Like, scale, how can this brand that we're so passionate about, how can we scale it so that a wider audience can have a touch point on Hesellic? So we're working really hard, and we've made a commitment to each other within the studio that by the end of the year we'll be well on the way to launching a homeware range.
Oh, finally! I've been bothering her about this for a very long time. That would be incredible.
And it's been a long time in the making and talking, but it's something now, like, you know, if I had to give up a little bit of work ethic for bravery, for example, I would have done that 10 years ago. Like, I should have done it a long time ago. And it's only now and again, I don't know whether it's an age thing, whether it's a confidence thing, or whether it's just actually wanting to leave a bit more of a legacy, you know, and allow people. We get some beautiful messages on social media. Oh, where can I get the cushion? Where can I get the diffuser? Where can I get, you know, and it's almost like wanting to give a little bit back to say, do you know what? Thank you for following me and my little journey. Here's a little something. Okay, our service as a studio, you know, is reserved for a specific market, of course, but we just want to be able to, for people on more of a global scale, you know, not just as
Everyone
interior
to have a little
designers,
taste of that.
to just feel that Hesellic.
But you say that you maybe would have done it 10 years ago, but do you know what? I really think it all works out in the time frame that it's supposed to be, because 10 years ago you'd have had 10 years less experience of that and knowing exactly you know, what you want and how it looks, because that only just grows over time, doesn't it? So
of course, and we always say no regrets, but yeah, that's definitely a thing for us. And then to continue, like, my dream, like, some people want to build a business and make it multi-million dollar. For me, I want to continue to live a beautiful life, lead a simple life, but actually with my work get to travel. And so around 5 years ago, I started on a manifestation journey, which you're also big on. And it was like, you know, in 5 years' time, I'd like to be doing projects in the USA and the Middle East. And then, hey presto, here we are. My team and I, we go on these amazing journeys. I was in the Middle East last week. The rest of my team were in the French Riviera on a project. And it's those moments where I'm just like, how's this gal from, you know, Rowley with her swags and tails in a bedroom, you know, at kind of 7 years old, like, how has this dream become possible? And it is, like, it's hard work, but it's a dream. And
you make your own luck. That's what they say, right?
That's
you kind
it,
of
girl.
You manifest, but the rest is hard work. And there's no use manifesting and just sitting there. You've got to do the extra 50%, and you do the extra 75%, you know.
Thank you,
I
girl.
always kind of end these conversations by finding out how you spend your lunch hour. And we go from the serious,
I'm going to get exposed
and
now.
to the light.
I just know I am.
I am so interested in what everyone eats, and it's just me. You know me. I like a good natter and a little lunch break, whether I'm working it or whether I'm sat down. How do you spend it, Sal? What are you eating? Where are you? How does your lunch hour look?
Okay, gal. So my days are absolutely bonkers. So I do my quiet time from 6 a.m. until 9:30 when the girls come into the office. And I tend to work all the way through because I'm going from one desk to another and we're talking about ideas. So I am that gal that's like on the centre console in our big design studio, like going for the biscuits. Although just lately,
good biscuit never hurt anyone.
And you know, grabbing and going. I'm not great, but just like my friends have forced me into a bit of a health kick because I'm, you know, getting to that age where I've got to really take care. So now I'm kind of, my go-to lunch at the moment is something that Mum's meal prepped for me that's frozen or put in containers, and we warm it up at work. So a wicked stew or a soup.
Yeah, that is the key, where it's the prep. But the prep is a thing that is easier when you have time.
Yes.
But it's kind of like a cycle. I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to gain back time if I just prep or just save a bit of what I had last night and put that in something and take it into work.
Absolutely.
We can look after ourselves a bit better.
Absolutely. So right now it's Mama's stew for lunch.
Oh,
just until I'm allowed to eat bread and biscuits.
She's on a health kick, guys. She's on a health kick. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This has been the best ever.
Thank you, girl. Thank you for having me.
Don't forget to follow us on Apple and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts to make sure you don't miss out, because next time we're going to be talking to another incredible lady who launched. If, like me, you're a watcher, then please follow us on YouTube and don't forget to like and subscribe.